an association between interest and aptitude and success in particular careers. I would argue that aptitude and interests align, right? Because you're not going to really find a lot of interest or reward in a specific career if you just don't have the right aptitude for it, right? But let kids discover this on their own, right? Let them look at all of those possibilities, find out what interests them, find out what inspires them, start building a plan to develop some of these skills, right? Give them a little exposure to it. And they may say, you know what, this is exactly where I want to be, or after maybe a year and they're looking at it, building some of the skills, doing the activities and say, you know what, not for me. Which is great. Go back and change, right? You can always change.
Welcome back to the L3 Perspective. Man, we've had some great conversation with our special guest that we're going to introduce here in a second. If you're interested in philanthropy, if you're interested in education, if you're interested in leadership and AI. But anyway, we're going to dive into it here in a second. Stay tuned. We're going to have an amazing dialogue. I'm going to introduce our guest, CEO of Bridget, Mr. James McIntosh, here in a second. But I'm going to toss it over to Cam, and then we'll get started.
Hey, what's up, guys? As you already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you all. We have the conversations you guys want to hear. And so we enjoy your feedback and direction as far as what's valuable for you guys.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, James McIntosh. So, James, I had the opportunity to connect with you, virtually, hearing more about Bridget. I just want to read a couple of things that stood out to me regarding your bio and want to hear part of your story, right? And so, James has worked in education policy and philanthropy for 25 years. Salute you for your service. Has helped launch Educate Girls India, a girls education program that was implemented in partnership with the governor of, is that Rajasthan?
Rajasthan, yeah.
Rajasthan. But without kind of like elaborating extensively, because you have an amazing bio, from the organization continues today, having impacted over 25,000 schools. You have since helped, you have been helping lead a foundation serving as vice chair of the nearly $7 million in grant awarded annually. Nearly 70% has been focused on improving public education in Hawaii. Amazing. And then something else that I want to highlight, which is the very last sentence that stood out to me was, a lot of your experience and your story is what inspired you to create Bridget, which is a platform leveraging the power of AI and providing a single consolidated tool allowing students to explore all available pathways, connecting them with resources and encouraging them along the way. I'm super excited to dive into the meat and potatoes of that. But where are you originally from, and what inspired you to want to be great?
Right on. Originally born in San Francisco, grew up in the peninsula, so Bay Area, sort of my whole life. Went to University of Oregon, and then after that moved to Washington, D.C. and started working in policy. Worked in government and think tanks for a little bit, became pretty cynical with just sort of the nature of politics, right?
Kind of nature.
And so ended up getting into philanthropy and looking at nonprofits and helped launch, as you mentioned, Educate Girls India. And that was an interesting program because we were working in partnership with the government there to really mobilize communities in the rural areas of India. And the school system was just broken. I think communities were looking at it as government schools that weren't serving their purposes. And they basically thought until governments are ready to fix it, they're not going to participate. And what we tried to do was say, yes, it's a government school, but it's your school, right? And let's take theoretical ownership of this school, organize the community, drive initiatives, set priorities, and then connect them with resources. It was a really powerful program. It's scaled. It's continuing today. They're totally independent. I believe they raise close to $6 million a year. They're in over 25,000 schools. So super exciting to see sort of that, longitudinal success that they've had. And then since then, been involved with the Harrow Castle Foundation in Hawaii. And again, we're doing a lot of our focus on public education reform. I think that's sort of been a theme throughout my entire career is that education is a tool to empower people if it's used correctly, right? And over the last 7 or 8 years, we've really been looking at building out these career pathways. Hawaii is interesting because being an island, right? And it's like really strong community, really strong connection there. You talk to students and the majority of them don't feel that there's really employment opportunities in state and that if they really want to pursue opportunities, they got to move to the mainland. You talk to employers, and they all say they don't have a pipeline of employees coming out in state, and they got to go to the mainland to recruit. You're like, there's just a disconnect here, right? And I think students don't have visibility on what career options are out there, especially in the non-college space. Right? There's definitely a bias, I think, in schools to push kids towards college. We had College for All, these initiatives, and so like these pathways are pretty well defined. Kids that aren't going to college really don't have visibility on those opportunities. And they're siloed in different areas, right? I mean, the certification requirements differ from state to state. And so that was sort of the thought is, right, how do we help these kids kind of gain an understanding of what those opportunities are, align their interests, and then build a plan to actually get there. You know, we're looking right now, the average counselor to student ratio is like 460 to 1. A lot of schools, you're getting 500-600 students to one counselor.
Is that Hawaii or like in general?
Nationwide? That's the nationwide average. Like the recommendation is 250 students to one counselor, which still seems like a caseload that's way too big to effectively manage.
I guess if you think about that, like when I was in school, it was like there was like 4 counselors maybe, and it was a school of 1,000.
And when did you really sit down with your counselor?
Exactly,
right? Senior year, you get 1, 2 meetings.
When they told me I wasn't going to graduate.
Exactly.
Like, oh, wait, this is what you do.
Exactly. They're like, oh, wait, you wasted the first 3 years? And
interesting.
Right? And so I think, you know, schools can't hire their way out of that problem. You can't get that counselor-to-student ratio down enough. So let's accept it. Let's build something, a tool for students and counselors so that they can effectively manage it. And I think that's really what inspired Bridget. You know, it's a platform, I like to say, that allows students to do 90% of that post-secondary planning independently. And then counselors can really do that like sort of last mile, honing in, fine-tuning, which is what they want to do, right? They don't want to spend their entire time just chasing kids down. We have a counselor working for us. She about 15 years as a guidance counselor in schools. And, you know, she would say she'd spend days trying to chase the student down to come down and sit. You know, we got to come up with a list of colleges you want to apply to. Finally get the student to come into her office. And it's the top 10 schools right off of Forbes.com, you know. And maybe the student has like a 2.6, right?
Come on,
and exactly. And, you know, it's sort of like, well, did you just Google this 5 minutes ago? And yeah, of course. So they waste the entire 60-minute meeting just coming up with the work that the student should have done independently. And so I kind of think about Bridget, right? It allows counselors to start a 60-minute meeting on minute 45.
Okay.
Got you. So with you having an education and or a background in education and philanthropy and obviously think tanks and things of that nature, you know, when you're looking to bring on individuals such as the team member, like what qualities or skill sets or characteristics are you looking at? Because, you know, when we think about that next generation, it's so important, right? To invest in the time, energy, and effort. So what are some qualities or characteristics that you look at before bringing someone on into Bridget?
Yeah, I love that question. You know, it's interesting because this is my first sort of venture into for-profit. I've spent my career in the nonprofit space. And somebody said, you know, early on in startups, hire missionaries over mercenaries. And I think that's really held true, right? It's like the people that, you know, we're deeply mission-based organization, and people that really understand it, see the potential, understand the problem that we're trying to address, and have that deep belief in serving these students and helping them out. I mean, those are the ones we want part of this team.
Gotcha. Interesting. I love that. And you said it was mission over...
Missionaries over mercenaries, right? So not looking for people that are just wanting a paycheck, but wanting people that really believe in it and want to make that impact, right?
No, that definitely makes sense. And which is key. Have you, in your experience in kind of going through that vetting process, or are folks saying, hey, you know, Bridget sounds like an amazing idea, how can I be a part of it? Like, have you found it to be easy to find the individuals that align with what you just said, or you know, going through a number of folks where they don't align?
No, absolutely. We've found a lot of interest. I think it's an area that people they gravitate towards. They understand, right? Everybody has a personal experience. Looking back at their own teenage selves, saying, boy, you know, if I had a tool, if I had more visibility on what these options were. People that went to college, and, you know, I think it's only about half the people that go to college actually end up in a career in the field that they studied, right? And so there's a lot of transition. There's a lot of back and forth there that makes it a struggle. So I think this concept and the idea really resonates with a lot of people. One of the things we do as well is, for students, really understanding what the skill sets are. And when you talk about skills for employers or employment opportunities, you've got your sort of hard technical skills and then the durable skills. And more, especially with some of these AI tools, I think those technical skills are becoming slightly less important, right? Because there's a lot of tools out there that can do them even more effectively and efficiently. But what employers are looking for are those durable skills, right? I mean, communication, leadership, creativity. And it's interesting because as we've been hiring some people, when you look at their resume, they've got, great degree, great credentials. So what really differentiates, what separates them? It comes down to that, right? Who resonates, who connects, who has that communication skill, who sort of embodies that enthusiasm and passion and emotion and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's been exciting.
That's good. And speaking of what you saying, that workforce development popped in my head. I know you have kind of experience in that area as well. So, from your perspective, or even both of you guys' perspective, because I know Cam is really big in workforce development as well. When it comes to, AI and technology just evolving as quickly as it is, how can, folks who are seeking careers, right, and also employers seeking candidates, how could they leverage the tool sets to really help them go to the next level without being replaced?
Right. Yeah, I think that's it's a great question, because I think AI and the impact on careers, and especially the entry-level careers, creates a lot of anxiety for kids right now.
Scaring a lot of people.
Scaring a lot of people, right? And that's all you see is these entry-level positions are disappearing. And then I think, it's also clickbait. There's a lot of fear out there, and it gets people to say, oh, AI is going to take over all the jobs out there. And so I don't know, kind of leaning back into that skills development piece, right? So students, you're talking about, freshman, sophomore in high school, potentially on a college track or not, but whatever career they're interested in at that age may not exist when they enter the workforce. And so what we're trying to do is let students build sort of a skills bank, right? And so throughout high school, how do you interpret the activities that you're doing, the things that you're accomplishing, and be able to articulate those as employable skills that you have? We can also then show students, right, if they pivot and switch pathways, those skills are transferable.
Yeah, they transfer.
Right. And so I think that sort of eases some of that anxiety when you start to show that, this is an area that you're interested in. You're developing a skill set that's applicable. But at the same time, if you need to pivot, it's also applicable over here in these other areas. So it creates option, creates opportunity. And
that's good. That's good.
I feel like I've met more lawyers in the last couple of years who never practiced law. When you talk about people going to school and then not doing it, and I always ask them, you went through all of that, passed the bar, and what it came down was I thought that's what I wanted to do. It seemed like a good path, and then once I got more experience, I realized that it didn't align anymore. And they always credit it to giving them a better understanding, though, especially a lot of them have gone into some type of policy or something.
Sure.
And so they do say that has helped them obviously navigate that space, because they learned how to read, or not read, but read the law and analyze it, all those things. But when it came down to litigation and so forth, they were that just didn't resonate with me anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
No, it's true. I met a lady a number of years ago, and she was working in the gig economy. Driving Uber, doing delivers. She had a PhD in linguistics, right?
Holy
she took
cow.
out tremendous debt, went all the way through, got her PhD, and was qualified to be a librarian, and I think earning $60,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say
she was making
yeah.
more money in the gig economy.
Yeah.
Right.
I've never heard that, the gig economy.
Yeah.
Or the durable skills. Those are two things that two ways of framing that I've never heard before.
So I think that's where, we're looking at it. It's make sure that you're being strategic about the decisions you're making.
Right.
Right. There's no question. A lot of the best paying jobs in the economy require a college degree. But not all jobs require a college degree. Right. And in fact, a lot of careers, college is probably a waste of money. And so let's understand that. And if you're going to pursue college, great, but have that ROI in mind.
Right.
Do you think AI can help people almost skip over that requirement if they have a really good understanding and can show that without the degree, right, that they can be highly efficient? I think that's something we talk to people about is don't think of AI, oh God, it's replacing me. It's how can I use it now to make myself even more valuable?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Does Bridget teach any of that stuff?
Bridget's using AI really to connect with opportunities, build out pathways. It's interesting. So the way we're kind of looking at it as well is how do you, I think the core problem here is that students don't necessarily see purpose in education, right? And you're talking to... Few do, honestly, few do, right? You talk to teenagers. I have an 8th grader, right? And so you get a little insight into their mentality. And it's not that far in my rearview mirror. I kind of remember, but it's like, okay, so you got to go to high school to get into college.
Yep.
Okay. Not that motivating, especially for a lot of kids that don't see college in their future.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you got to do well in school in order to get a good career and get a good job. Like, well, I'd rather be an influencer and don't really want to work, right? That's still not really motivating me.
Yeah.
Totally. But what we're doing is saying, okay, well, let's look at your future lifestyle, right? Where do you want to live? How do you want to live? Do you want to live in your own apartment? Do you want to drive a new car? Do you want to have an active social life? Do you want to be able to go out to dinner? Well, guess what? That's going to cost X, right? And now you got some understanding to then go and sort of backwards map your plan. Right. And I think a lot of kids, right, they do have visions of their future. They do have ambitions and goals, and they all want to live an exciting life, a fun life, an empowered life.
Right.
And so our thought or our thesis, right, is that that's what is going to motivate kids. And so if they can see that, understand what they need as far as earning potential, and then kind of backwards map into all of the different career opportunities, college or non-college, and it gives them, right, they're in the driver's seat of setting their priorities. Gotcha. So is their priority a location? Like, I want to live in a specific city or a specific state. I want to pursue a specific career, or really at the end of the day, I just want to meet a certain lifestyle, right? They can set whatever priority they want and build a plan to put it there.
And that's something I think that's not only like powerful for us to be doing with like students, but I don't think enough adults do that.
100%. Honestly, I mean,
it's a skill that's not taught.
We're looking at starting in high schools, right? I think that this is something that's applicable to middle schools, all the way through college, into the adult workforce.
Yeah, because I mean, if you talk about backwards mapping, I mean, that's how some of the most successful projects, things in the world have been accomplished, is like, what are we trying to get to?
Yeah.
Now let's just take it back and then figure out every single step that it took to get there.
Exactly. Right. And then that's the great point too, right? It's that step-by-step plan.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of platforms that are out there right now, there's 2 issues I have with them. One is they rely heavily on assessments, right? It's very prescriptive.
Bro, those assessments
it's
kill me.
like
it was like interesting when I first started doing them, and now I'm like, I feel like every assessment's full of shit.
Do you know there's a 50% likelihood that if you take the same assessment 8 weeks apart, it'll change?
So it has on me. So I've taken like Myers-Briggs.
Yep.
There was one that's so I was in Air Force recruiting.
Yeah.
And they had us take one where it kind of talked about like what motivates you as a like a salesperson, a recruiter. And I remember reading it, and it was like people should dangle carrots in front of you. And I was like, not like, it was like, like if you kind of talk to him about, and I was like, I don't feel like that aligns at all. And then someone told me later, say, hey, retake it.
Yeah.
And I retook it, and that was like all of that stuff was completely gone. And they were like, yeah, you might have just answered a question that day, or like a slew of questions based off where you were at. And that's just not the case anymore.
What was your mood that day,
Exactly.
right? There's subjective questions, and it changes.
Yeah.
I think the other problem too is that, one, I think inherently teenagers don't want to be told what to do, right? From their parents, from their teachers. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't want to be told what to do.
13 and a 12-year-old in the house right now.
Yeah, it's brutal, right?
You just want to argue with me to argue with me.
Yeah. And then I think you take these assessments and it says, okay, Cam, you should pursue a career in social services.
Yeah.
Well, if that's not the way you see yourself and you wanted to do something else, right? I'm kind of implicitly saying all those other careers, probably not such a good fit for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that can be a really disempowering message to give kids, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's where we're sort of different, and it's laying out all the possibilities, right? I mean, there is obviously an association between interest and aptitude and success in particular careers.
Right.
I would argue that aptitude and interests align, right? Because you're not going to really find a lot of interest or reward in a specific career if you just don't have the right aptitude for it, right? Yeah. But let kids discover this on their own.
Yeah.
Right? Let them look at all of those possibilities, find out what interests them, find out what inspires them, start building a plan freshman year of high school to develop some of these skills, right? Give them a little exposure to it.
Yeah.
And they may say, you know what, this is exactly where I want to be. Or after maybe a year and they're looking at it, building some of the skills, doing the activities and saying, you know what, not for me.
Yeah.
Which is great. Go back and change, right? You can always change.
So to the parents that are watching this, or the aunts or uncles, you know, when you're talking about Bridget and it being a platform, like, could you break it down on like the value add for them, or even like
Yep.
like when you talk about platform, like what does that mean to them?
Yeah, and I think, right, it serves multiple stakeholders. So as a student, as you come in, you do a quick sort of emotional check-in, which gives some data to the counselors so that they have a little bit of visibility towards their students, their caseload, on how they're doing.
Right.
But really, once you get into the platform, you start, just exploring career sectors. And we show you what careers are available within a sector, the associated skills, the associated types of jobs, and then you can filter by college and non-college. You can save careers, and then you go through a comparison with a cost of living calculator. And so you start looking at different locations, different lifestyles, see whether those careers support your lifestyle and your ambitions.
Right.
And once you select a career that's of interest, you can launch your plan. And then we basically build out, right, a plan step by step through 4 years of high school. We break it down into academics, skills and experience, financial planning, and continuing education. And so if you have a certain GPA that you need to maintain to get into a school or to graduate on time, right, we're going to monitor that. And so we get real-time academic data. If you start to slip, your science grade fell below target, our AI co-pilot chips in, comes in, says, hey, Glenn, looks like you might need a little help in science. We connect with...
Get it together.
Yeah, come on now. You can do some workshops through Khan Academy. We can connect you to a video. You can schedule office hours with your teacher, or if there are community-based organizations around you that offer extracurricular support after school, we'll connect with that as well. Similarly with financial aid, building skills and experience, searching for schools, apprenticeships, technical programs, whatever that might be. And then the co-pilot sort of nudges you, maintains, helps you sort of track that step by step.
How does it get access to your grades? Do you have to input it?
It's integrated with the school system. So the school's information system and learning management systems, we can integrate with them. And so you're able to get that real-time academic data. So kids also aren't going to be slipping through the cracks.
Correct.
Some of the counselors we've been talking to, one counselor recently has a caseload of 500 students.
Yeah.
And she said, honestly, the kids that I see are the frequent flyers, right?
Yeah.
The ones that advocate for themselves, the ones that probably don't need my help that much, right?
Yeah.
The kids that are slipping through the crack, I have no visibility on.
Right.
I don't see them. They don't advocate for themselves. They're not coming into my office to set up time to talk.
Yeah.
But this is a system where they can reach out. I think going through an app, going through software, not having to put yourself out there physically is much more comfortable for a lot of kids. The system will also flag kids that are slipping on track and notify a counselor as well.
I was just about to ask that question.
So it's both ways, right?
That's
The
really
student
cool.
can advocate sort of without putting themselves out there,
Yeah.
and the system will advocate on their behalf as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then parents, right? It's like, how do you get parents connected to their kids and involved in this whole process?
Yeah.
And so parents are able to have a parent access as well. They can go through the career exploration. They can see all the cost of living. They can understand a student's plan. And really, again, not requiring a parent to come and engage in the school setting, where a lot of parents don't feel comfortable, don't want to engage in the school setting. They don't have to, right? They have access. They have eyes on their kids. They understand what's happening. They see if they're on track. They can have those conversations at home.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the counselors, right? They have a tool now that they have oversight of their entire caseload, can see who's struggling, who's not. They can send messages, recommendations on resources.
Right.
And then finally, the school district is really going to benefit here as well. There
The better
is
they do. The better.
exactly right. So there's a lot of federal funding that goes unused for CTE, like career technical education, non-college pathways.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that schools have is they can't confirm employment after kids graduate, right? Because they lose sight of them, right? The kids take off. They're in a non-college pathway and a technical education pathway in school. If they can't confirm employment, they can't unlock that federal funding.
Right.
But we're able to switch, right, through that app that students can carry this on as a resource, as a tool that they're going to continue to use after graduation, confirm that employment, send the data back to the districts, give them the information to unlock more funding.
And this is exactly why you bridge it.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of bridges, right?
Right,
But yeah,
right,
absolutely.
So question, as executive leaders, obviously strategy is important, right? And so, and I hear you talk about like the school district and parents and also the students. As an executive leader of your company, when it comes to marketing, how are you creating marketing strategies? Like, what are some of the things that you and your team are doing to market to those different targeted areas? Because how you market to a student is different how you market to the school district.
100%.
Right. And so,
Yeah. No, and it's right. The school district is looking on their bottom line. Students, I think what really students need is an experience, right? So there is recent research that came out that showed only 22% of kids are even engaging in the platforms that are available. 78% of kids rely on college and career advice through TikTok and Instagram, right? And I think that just
70% of America
yes,
relies on
100% for all their information.
Yeah.
All right. But why? Because it's the experience, right? It's easy. It's engaging.
yeah.
The platforms that out there are not engaging. So, we're really looking to build a cool, engaging, easy experience for students. And so, there's just those different stakeholders. You have to apply to the districts. You have to show the value to the counselors on how it makes them more effective and they can give better guidance and leadership to their students.
Yeah.
And then really unlocking that engagement for students, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to continue, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your advice is, how good of quality your tools are that you offer. If kids aren't using it, what's the point?
right.
Right.
Yes. Got you. I like talking strategy. So I was very curious on that piece.
And we've done some publications, right? We've gotten some articles out, doing podcasts. This is my first with you guys. And, we'd look to continue kind of this outreach. We're going to be doing trade shows throughout the year as well. And then direct sales pitches to schools
for sure.
they are the
What kind
end
of
buyer.
trade shows do you do in this,
There's a bunch of
arena,
ed tech
that's right. I
trade
guess that
shows.
makes
Yeah.
sense. There's that one, oh no, I guess that's mainly towards military. A business associate of ours is coming out here for like this big conference in San Francisco, but I think it's geared towards like the colleges that use military TA and like all that type of stuff.
Yep.
And I was like, I didn't even know that they did that. He's like, dude, it's like one of
Yeah.
the biggest ones in the nation.
And there, another great pathway for students, right? Understanding the opportunities through military as well.
It's good that you mentioned that because, like, even through some of our clients or even guests that we've had on, we hear, these people have these very great ideas, right? And they have this very very clear vision, but they lack the marketing strategy, right? They lack the actually packaging the things up, and like oftentimes I'll sit and I'll hear Cam, having a strategy call with one of the clients. Just around that piece of it, right? Them really understanding, like, yes, you have an amazing story, you have an amazing product, et cetera, but like if you don't package it correctly, it'll just sit on the shelf.
It's all about packaging.
Yeah.
It is 100%.
Yeah, and that's even like, and I've talked about that with G as well, as like even professionally and personally, like how are we packaged as human beings, right? Like we kind of were talking about that beforehand, is like who are we packaged for, right? And the audience, and then how do we improve that packaging, like, and so those are all things that I think people don't realize go into, like, you can't just have a good product. You have to have a good message. You have to have good packaging. You have to have a mission and a passion that you're willing to get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you don't have that skill set, you got to surround yourself with people that do, right? Exactly.
Good coaches have coaches.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So as a parent, right? So I have 4 kids. Kim has 5.
I have 6.
Or we have 6. Yeah.
But I got 5 in my house.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 in the house.
My son's in college.
And so just kind of like sparking my interest of Bridget, right? As a parent, when I'm looking at, the next phase of my child's life, transitioning to college, et cetera. Like when you are, as a parent, I know you say you have a parent feature as well. What are the benefits of the parent, accessing the platform? Like, like in simple frame, like how do we as parents navigate through it and then see the value in it based off of maybe experience or feedback that you've received from parents?
Yeah. Parent participation and engagement is key, right? I think you can see that going back a long time in a lot of different data. The more parents are involved in a kid's education, the higher likelihood that kid is going to be successful.
For sure.
And, I think that for a lot of reasons, if you talk about first-generation immigrants, language barriers, there's a number of reasons why parents struggle to engage in a student's education.
For sure.
They send it to, send a kid off to school and expect the school just to handle it and manage it, and the kid's going to do what they're going to do. Kids fall through the cracks that way, right? And so I think that's a big part of it, is how can you get parents, again, just understanding where their child is in their journey, where the pain points might be, where their struggles might be, when they start to slip through the cracks, to have, the ability to step in and motivate, maybe connect with a teacher, have those conversations at home. It's really just about allowing the parents to really get involved with their kids' education and support them.
Gotcha.
Is there do you guys integrate in the platform as well, like IEP or like learning types? Because I know like my daughter has an IEP, right? And I agree as far as like the involvement makes a big difference. Whereas 2 years ago it was like, oh man, we're having all these roadblocks, and now we get on a call and the teacher's like, not only has she is she catching up, but she's like killing it now. And a lot of that's come from one, like understanding how to support her as best as possible, but also like being involved with her teachers, knowing how we can best support her, like as she tries to learn, right? And she has, and honestly, it's the teachers make a big thing too. One of our previous guests, he was like, kids don't learn from people they don't like.
Yeah, interesting.
And I resonate with that, because I think some of the teachers I like the most, and I felt that I could actually gain something from, I learned the most from, right? And that's obviously not everybody's journey, but we are social animals.
So I'd seen a really interesting statement recently that said, if you look at the average person, when they look at their education from kindergarten through college, how many teachers did you have in that whole journey that you felt truly were invested in you?
Oh yeah.
The average answer is 3.
Yeah,
and a lot are below that.
I might say
right.
I might say 3.
Yeah,
I went to a lot of different schools.
You get a lot of different schools. You got a lot of different teachers, right? And to say that only 3 actually you felt were invested in your success and your future,
right?
That's powerful.
Yeah, that really is.
But yeah, I think, right, and that's another area where the AI, because parents can ask, right, what kind of ways can I get additional support for my students?
Yeah.
It's going to give those recommendations. It's going to say these are the different things within these schools, whether it's IEP or available, community-based organizations that have tutoring or support for kids with learning differences.
Like counseling app for kids and parents.
100%. And it's just really wrapping them with resources, right? Whether they're national online organizations, and looking at it as really sort of a holistic support for students, even including mental health, right? Okay. So they can have a mental health question to their counselor. They can search for mental health support in their community. Again, that notifies a counselor, right? These are sort of hot button issues for them, and they're seeing the need and the want for this support just growing exponentially. But there's no real way right now for students to advocate for themselves without standing up and putting themselves out there, which they're not going to do.
They don't want to.
Right. Yeah.
What made you start with Hawaii?
I got involved with the organization, the Harold Castle Foundation there. And so I've been with them for about 8 years now. And so it's mostly all focus. The grant making is in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so they have 3 areas of focus: nearshore preservation, Windward Youth, which is where the family was originally from, was the windward side of Oahu, and then public education reform.
Okay.
And so that's really been the main part of it. Again, education's sort of been my passion, going all the way back to the girls' education program in India.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an incredible organization. Alex Harris, who's the president, has just deep expertise and experience in public education. Yeah. And so I've learned a tremendous amount from him. He's really the one that I think led and spearheaded some of this pathway work in the state. So yeah, it's been exciting to be part of.
His name's Alex?
Alex Harris,
Alex. So what's one lesson that you learned from Alex Harris?
Wow, there's been a lot of lessons I've learned from Alex Harris. But honestly, I think just this whole concept of pathways, right? It really was eye-opening, because the standard pathway is just go to college, right? And it's not even necessarily looking at education as workforce development, right? And I think that's sort of, it's a subtle difference, but it's so profound. And that's really what education should be, right? Why are we going to school? Why are we even pursuing this knowledge? Hopefully be able to have a career that pays a living wage and we can take care of ourselves. Right. And I think making that connection and looking at what is that deeper purpose of education and trying to build a pipeline and an alignment between education and employment was, really an amazing effort that they've put forward. And then that was sort of my only issue, was that there's just no easy platform to figure it all out, right?
Right.
And how do you make something automated that really guides students through this and gives them access to all of these different
Right.
potential options, right?
Yeah.
I had heard that recently, average high schooler can name about 7 careers. It's usually doctor, teacher, lawyer, whatever my parents do,
Right.
and, maybe something else I've been exposed to, right? There's over 1,000 different careers out there that you can pursue.
Do you think there's potentially going to be reform as far as like the amount of degrees that kids can study in schools that realistically don't probably lead to a career path that can pay the bills?
Yep.
I've been really interested to see what that looks like as far as, because there's a lot of degrees, I believe where I'm like, they just came up with that because some kids said they liked it.
Right.
But when you look
Yep.
at the data, it's like this is not a viable career path to sustain for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And so do you think that especially as AI kind of gets more involved in education, that the data will really be used to just make it better for people to know what they can't or want to do that actually leads to a life that they can live?
Yeah, it absolutely should.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what, our long-term ambition also was to open up an employer marketplace. Right. Because I think as we get more information, more users, more students, and you understand what pathways are of interest, what skills they're developing, there's a tremendous value there to employers to see what pipeline is coming, right? And then they can also influence some of it and say, these are the careers that we have a need for that have growth potential. And this is the skill set we want you to develop, right? And make it a bi-directional pipeline there.
Right.
There was a survey that was done, and this really resonated with me and stuck with me. It was done a while ago, but they basically interviewed about 1,000 professors at universities and colleges and 1,000 CEOs at private companies. And they asked them, are colleges and universities adequately preparing students to enter the workforce? 97% of the professors said yes, doing a great job, right?
Of course they did.
Just plug them in, they're ready to go. 11% of the CEOs agreed.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I would love to see that if you could send that.
And,
Maybe I
no,
can
it was
do
done by the Lumina Foundation in partnership with Gallup.
I'll have to,
But yeah,
Gallup.
it's and I think that just really highlights the problem.
Yeah.
Right. And you're seeing it. I think, I forget what company recently, but they're just hiring kids straight out of high school. And they're like, don't waste your time with college. Come to our company. We're going to put you through an 18-month training program, and you're going to be a more qualified employee for us than after 4 years of college, and you're not going to have the debt.
Like NVIDIA or one of these tech companies that's teaching kids to do AI machine
100%.
learning.
Google's been doing
Google's
it.
been doing
Yeah. And so I think that should be where, right, education and employment should have alignment. And that's where we hope it goes.
Yeah, we even see that problem with like military folks, right? So like whether they do 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25, whatever, there's this inadequate preparation for them to then leave the institution, right?
Yep.
The old Shawshank Redemption, institutionalization is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people where no matter how well equipped they were, academically or there was this transfer of skills or this new learning of skills that had to happen because there wasn't preparation that was done, years in advance. Like I always say that I was really fortunate because I started my transition out of the military 7 years ago. I got on LinkedIn. I met, and then it was even crazy. They're like, "You're not looking for a job," and I was like, "No, I'm just poking around.
Yeah,
I want to see what's available, see what's going on." And they're like, "No one does that, and especially not on LinkedIn, right?"
Sure.
And I was like, "Well, I do."
Yeah.
And it worked out great, right? Because I learned so much, and I even realized like the thing that I do in the military, I don't want to do when I get out. Which is not also the normal case. Is most people are just like, "Hey, I got the skill. I'm just gonna fall into that on the outside and call it a day."
Yeah.
And so I think I personally feel like there's kind of like this revolution coming, or renaissance, excuse me, as far as how are we really preparing people for like careers and pathways, and just but also being realistic about what it requires.
Absolutely.
And also showing them how they can leverage tools such as AI.
Yep.
Right. And not have the only fear of AI replacing them, or having that mindset that, oh, I'm spending all this time, energy, effort, money, et cetera, into getting an education, but then I won't be able to utilize it. And so they're seeing firsthand how through platforms like Bridget that you have the capability. Not only do you have people who have skill sets, but they're leveraging the technology to make other opportunities for individuals. And that's,
Absolutely.
I think that speaks volumes on, the vision of Bridget and what you guys are doing in Hawaii, and expanding from there.
Yep.
So
well, and getting kids to understand that, right? They have skills.
Right.
They've got a skill set that relates to employment opportunities. There is an interesting organization that the foundation supported called AIEDU. And they're going into schools and trying to develop AI literacy, right? So that students, you don't have another digital divide, right? Because the well-resourced schools are obviously going to have exposure to all of this, right? And he went into a class and he said, how many students in here have experience at prompt generation? Nobody raises their hand. He says, okay, well, how many kids in here use ChatGPT to complete schoolwork or, generate a paper? Everyone raises their hand. It's like, guess what? That's prompt generation.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's even just getting kids to understand that they have skills, right? A lot of them, they don't even really realize the skills that they're already developing.
Right.
And so then how are they able to market themselves? They're not going to have that confidence to pursue something. Right. And so I think that's really starting at a really young age and, moving from there and supporting them along the way.
I have chat help my kids with their math homework.
Yeah.
I always tell them, I say, hey, I'm never gonna tell you that you can't use it because I won't want you to not have those skills.
Yep.
But we have to use it the right way.
Yeah.
So if you need to take a picture of the problem, I want you to show me that it showed you how to do this.
Yeah.
And then you have to show me that you know how to do it.
Yep.
And but if you're stuck, I want you to know that I need you to use the tools around you, because if you don't, you will fall. And you won't be able to get picked back, because the way how fast things move, you got to have foundational skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, right? There's a lot of initially you see ChatGPT and these other AI tools come on, and teachers are like, "Oh my God, kids are going to use them to cheat," right? And they're using AI to generate papers and coursework and all of that, right? And this is cheating.
Our medieval school system.
Really, right? And I said, well, I don't necessarily if you need to look at that. I think you need to sort of reframe it and say, you use ChatGPT, but did you use it well? Yeah. Right? Were your prompts quality? Did you get the best results out of it?
Did you get a real resource?
And so let's judge on how effectively you're using those tools, not whether or not you use the tools. They're there. You should use them, right? Exactly. They're a huge efficiency boost.
Yeah.
That's good. So 3 lessons that you've learned as a CEO.
Wow. I would say I had no idea, one, what a vulnerable position this was going to be.
Gotcha.
I was joking with my daughter recently, and I said, it doesn't matter how far we go or how much success we have, because there's constantly another step of opening yourself up, putting yourself out there and saying, hey, judge me. Right. Yeah, judge my product, judge my approach, judge my platform. Right. So that's been interesting. It's been a challenge. It's not something I was used to in the past. Gotcha. The other lesson I think really that's jumped out at me is how passionate people are about this, right? Seeing people that come in and are willing to work for a salary that's well below what they really could earn, right? Yeah. Because we're early stage. We don't have a ton of funding, but they believe in it and they see the potential and they see the belief in the product and the platform and how to motivate kids. And so I think that's just been really inspiring. And I think it's been uplifting to see how many, kind of back to that, it's the missionaries, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of great people out there that really do want to help and make an impact and have it go forward. And the last lesson I would say is, I'm just shocked at what a persistent problem this still is. You've got, I don't know, it's like 55% of kids are enrolling in college out of high school. Only about 2/3 of them are walking away with a bachelor's degree within 6 years.
I was gonna say, I know 6 years has been like a thing. It's like there's no longer any 4.
It's not 4. It's associate's degree in 3 and bachelor's in 6. So I think the problem is huge because the narrative that persists is anything less than a college degree and you don't have very many options, right? Go work in the service industry or whatever else. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Right. It's not true at all. And we need to have more visibility and the kids need to understand where these options are, be supported along the way. So yeah,
that's good. That's good. I have another question about scalability. So earlier you were talking about the organization in India, Girls India.
Yep.
And so you mentioned about scaling. And so what tips can you provide, kind of going back to even that phase of your life, what tips can you provide when it comes to scaling the organizations, scaling the teams, scaling programs, et cetera?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think the main approach that was so successful with that program was really this concept of empowerment. I think so many NGOs go in with a preset list of, there's an agenda, right? It's like, no, to improve this community, to improve this school, you need to do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
It's well-meaning, right? But at the end of the day, it reinforces a sense of dependency.
Right. Yeah.
It was interesting. So what we did, right, was really allow communities to set their own agendas, their own priorities. Yeah. Sometimes they might pick some of priorities where you're like, oh God, I wish you would have done this instead. But spicy. Right, but that's not the point. And I remember one of the times I went out there, it was the first year. We'd been operating in these communities for about 6 months. And I was talking to a head of school and I said, what can you tell us? Because I was running the fundraising as well. And I said, what can you tell us the impact has been since we began our intervention? Yeah. And he kind of looked at me and he said, well, you guys haven't done anything. I was like, oh, that's a problem, right? And hey, donate money to us. We don't do anything. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going, oh, geez. And he says, but, I want to show you what we've done. Right. I want to show you, we built a new perimeter wall. We built a new classroom. We brought in these new teachers. The students have built a volleyball. They've got, sports that they're doing at recess now. And there was just an incredible sense of pride and accomplishment. And there was no belief or understanding that anyone other than, the only person responsible for the success was themselves. Yeah. Right. And so I think, that made it very scalable because you're not needing to provide resources and support and continual management and all of that through the organization. Right. And I think that's sort of where we're looking at that as well. Right. It's not about, it's a platform that can scale with students and they're the ones in charge. They're driving it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the key to it all.
Awesome.
The belief, man. Yes, inspire these kids, give them a roadmap, and then connect them with resources, right? Because we're asking them to navigate a landscape that
none of us ever have.
It's impossible, honestly, right? You talk about kids that have very little support network, and you're saying you got to figure out what career you want to pursue, what kind of education you need to do, what major, how you're going to pay for it, manage all of your schoolwork, get support for yourself, advocate along the way. It's like, no wonder they're checking out.
You're right. Yeah. For sure. No, that's interesting. So we talked scalability, we talked philanthropy, we talked all these things. I have a question. There are 3 words: life, love, or leadership. If you could choose one of those words and just kind of speak whatever's on your heart.
I'll go with love, right? I think at the end of the day, kids need support, kids need love, kids need optimism, and that's the heart of all of this, right? It's love and optimism and building a future and supporting each other and building a sense of community. I mean, this is what's missing, right? Our society is becoming more and more separated, more and more fractured. Yeah. We interact with each other through social media. How do we build the love into this? And I think, love and optimism kind of go hand in hand, right? If you're pessimistic about your future, if you don't see opportunities, if you don't see a roadmap towards success, it's hard to really embrace love in life, right? Right. Or love of life.
Right. Yeah. Appreciate that. So what's next for you and Bridget?
I mean, this year is going to be our launch, right? We're doing some early pilots already, talking with schools and students. We've done counselor focus groups, student focus groups. We'll be, launching at these conferences this year and pushing into schools. So, it's been interesting because the last, we've been working on this for about 2 years. It took a while to find a co-founder. Yeah. We incorporated just over a year ago and really started actively building. And so it's that shift, right? We've been in build mode and now we got to get into sales mode. Yeah. And then it's really about tracking what kind of impact we have, right? Because it needs to make a difference. And I think that's somebody asked me recently, did you ever think about doing this as a nonprofit instead of a for-profit? Yeah. And I think for us, the accountability structure of a for-profit was appealing, right? I think that for all the well-intentioned purposes of nonprofits, so much of it is judged on inputs.
Correct.
How much money did you spend? How many books did you donate? Whatever it is.
How many people did it affect? Yeah.
But did it make a difference, right? Are you really changing the trajectory of people's lives?
Yeah.
And that's what we're really interested in,
win.
right? It's like, are they securing employment? Is there an uptick in enrollment and retention, right? I mean, I think right there, if we can impart some sort of a value and purpose in education to teenagers, it's going to be a win.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I like that. Any last minute thoughts or anything that you want to share?
Really appreciate you guys having me on. No, this has been an awesome conversation. I mean, obviously, I'm deeply passionate about Bridget. I think we've got something that, I'm excited to get it out there into the market and really prove the concept. So hopefully we can, circle back maybe next year and we can talk about all the kids we've impacted and the schools we are. And, we can have a little bit more detail to how we scaled, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, when we connected, I was thoroughly interested in Bridget, right? I think that from the concept of what you and your team have developed, it sounds very, very promising. And clearly there's a huge need across the nation for it. And so, we're excited to see what you and your team do and circle back in less than a year. But I do, just on behalf of our team, I just want to say thank you for the efforts that you and your team are putting in place to provide additional resources to the next generation, right? Because if we don't continue to pass or create those resources and then instill in the next generation to create more resources, we'll get left behind. So thank you for
it can be a huge impact.
Absolutely.
But and thank you for just giving me the space to talk about it. Really appreciate it because. I think the more we can get it out there, the more we can help these kids and
absolutely
start to build some more, optimism and love into people's lives.
So anybody who wants to support or follow your guys' journey, where do they go?
Best place is probably our website. It's bridge-it.ai.
Okay.
And then we're also building out social media channels. So we've got some stuff on Facebook Instagram and YouTube right now. That's one of the approaches too. I think if we can get kids excited, it's not just about selling to schools.
Of course.
Right? You got to get kids excited to use it too and maybe create some viral nature there. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You want to close this out?
Cool. Well, thank you, James. Hey. It's been dope. But as you guys already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. And we will see you guys later.
James McIntosh.
All right. Thank you.